Enter to win a new Surfskate every month at surfskate.love/giveaway. All right, let's talk about this Carver Ghostnet. Give me just a second here to take off my gear and catch my breath here. So we got kicked out of the skate park right when we started filming. Some people showed up, but we'll make do here. So let's talk about this Carver Ghostnet. This Carver Ghostnet is extraordinary. It's made of nylon 6 as opposed to wood, which is made of recycled fish nets. And that's actually the same material that they make gun stocks out of. Actually, they make Glocks out of this same nylon 6 material. And this material is very unique and it feels really, really good, actually. If you've ever ridden a penny board, you know how that plastic feels, and it doesn't feel like wood at all, but this nylon 6 actually feels very, very similar to wood. It has really great flex with very high rebound, and it also has an absorption or dampening quality to it. So when you're going over like bumps and cracks, it doesn't feel like a hard plastic. Again, it just feels like a natural wood deck. So personally, I'm a huge fan of this material for decks, and I'm told that Carver is going to come out with more models, and I'm really looking forward to that because I think this is fantastic. I really love the shape of this deck. Everything about this deck just feels natural and intuitive. Riding it just feels right. The foot placement is great. The contours are fantastic. And another cool thing about this material is that you're not limited to what you can do with wood. There's really limitless possibilities as to what you can do with the curvature. Let me show you what the foot placement looks like on this. You see that on the front you have this really great pocket for your front feet. For me, my feet are gonna fit right about here, so you're getting a nice little pocket here while still getting access to the concave right in here. And then my back foot is gonna ride right back in here, and that's just the perfect little pocket right here. So let me just show you what this looks like. So this is where my feet sit on this. Again, you can see where my front foot is right behind those front bolts there. And that is just a really perfect little pocket. I kind of angle my foot a little bit, and that gives you, like I said, access to both of those concaves on the toe side and the heel side, like so. I think you might see some riders ride it a little bit more forward like that in that pocket. For me personally, at my height and my stance width, that makes it just a little bit too precarious for me, too far weighted on my front foot. And also when you're up here, you're not really getting access to that concave on your toe and heel pumping like so. But either one will work, and regardless, it just feels very natural and intuitive. The one thing that makes the Carver Ghostnet not exactly ideal for me is just the wheelbase. This is a 16.5-inch wheelbase as measured between your inner bolt holes, and I'm 6 feet 2 inches tall, and I have an 18-inch stance width, so that is just on the slightly narrow end for me. Personally, I would like to be at least at a minimum of a 17-inch wheelbase on a Carver CX, and I know that a 1/2 inch doesn't seem like a lot, but it actually makes a really big difference in the feel of these. So I'm going to say that in terms of stance width, the Ghostnet is ideal for people between a stance width of between 15 and 17 inches. Although you're going to see my team rider David Kemppinen, who's 6'4", riding this with no problem, and he loves it. So that's not really a rigid thing, it's just kind of a general guideline. But if you tend to have a wider stance like me, then I think this is going to feel just a little bit on the narrow end for you. But like I said, I'm told by Carver that they plan on making more models of this, and so I'm looking forward to a model that has maybe a 17 or 17.5-inch wheelbase for me. So at that wheelbase that is on the narrower end, I would recommend this for more like park and bowl riding. And really, I personally wouldn't use this for like commuting or cruising long distances, just because a narrow wheelbase like that, you just have to, it's like riding a bike in first gear with a narrow wheelbase like that. But I love riding this in the bowl, and that's probably like the best use for me that I would recommend this for. Or any kind of like tight, nimble, sharp performance riding with lots of snaps and slides. But if you're more of like a long distance cruiser / commuter, I don't know that this is going to be the best fit for you. The Ghostnet comes with the upgraded trucks that are colored. They also have hollow kingpins and axles, which makes them lighter. And another improvement that Carver has made is that they have upgraded their bushings. So in the past, I have recommended that you upgrade your Carver CX bushings, but honestly, I really love these new ones. And in fact, I wouldn't upgrade these. And of course, I say that at my weight. Personally, I think these are fantastic for anybody who weighs over, say, 175. If you weigh less than that, then you might want to customize by simply going softer. But the bottom line is that these new bushings by Carver are fantastic. I'm really impressed and pleased with the new bushings. And for their wheels, they use these 65mm 83As that have a rounded edge. They call these the Carver Slick wheels. I actually really like these wheels a lot, but I don't know why they call them slicks, because there's honestly nothing slick about these at all. These do not slide very easily. They have tons of grip, which I like, so I'm not complaining about it, but their word choice on that, slicks, is a little bit interesting to me, because I think if they were gonna have slick wheels, they ought to be a little bit harder and maybe even a different formula, because these are grippy wheels. And as you know, I don't really do a lot of snaps and slides, but I imagine, of course, that that rounded edge is certainly going to help with more even slides. But even still, if you like to do a lot of snaps and slides, then you may not prefer these wheels, but that'll be something you'll just have to try out yourself. So who would I recommend this for? Well, if you're buying your first Surfskate, I don't think you can go wrong with this Ghostnet. Highly recommend it, assuming that you have, like I say, a stance width of between 15 and 17 inches, and you can watch some of my other videos to learn how to measure your stance width. And if you already have a quiver, but you're thinking of adding to it, personally, I think that this Ghostnet is so unique that you really might want to consider adding it, especially if you want to start doing like some park and bowl riding. So the bottom line is, assuming you have a stance width that works for this, I don't think you can go wrong with this Carver Ghostnet. I think you're going to love everything about it, and I highly recommend it. And with all that said, now let's hear from my team riders David Kemppinen and Laura McGorray, see what they have to say about the Ghostnet.
Alright, so as I'm riding the Carver Ghostnet, it's the CX version. The first thing I noticed whenever I picked it up is it's super lightweight. I mean, whenever I compare it to my traditional Carver CX setup, I mean, it's noticeably lighter right off the bat. The other thing that I noticed is the stock bushings feel like they've had a major upgrade to them. This board carries a ton of forward momentum when you're pumping it. It just feels super fast. It has 65mm 83A wheels, and I usually don't ride 65s because I like a bit of a higher top speed. It has a nice roll to it, and because it pumps so well, you just can generate a lot of forward momentum so quickly, and it accelerates fast. So I love that. I did some short board slides on this, and the deck slides better than most. I think it's just because of the plastic material as opposed to wood, but the board slides quickly. The thing that's most stand out to me about this compared to other surf skates, such as I'm a huge fan of my Yamaraki, Grasp, and Carver CX. Those are probably my three favorite like actual surf skate trucks, and I have spent a lot of time on Carver C5 and Yao Legacy. But what I really think is super cool about this, that I actually really like, is this does really well at being a skateboard and doing skateboard tricks. It gets off the ground really easy with ollies. Kickflipping this has been, I kickflip this much more easily than I ever did my Carver C5. And then just like trying to do like air outs and stuff like that, like it gets off the ground really easy. It feels super light. And so it's funny because this retains a lot of the properties of a regular surf skate, being that it carves really deep and it has a lot of forward momentum when pumping. So it retains a lot of that, but it does flip tricks and ollies and stuff to me just as well or better than my Carver C5 or Yao Legacy ever have. And the problem that I've stated before that I have with like Carver C5 and Yao Legacy is that it loses so much of the surf skate properties, being that to me C5 and Legacy lose a lot of that deep lean maneuverability and forward momentum when pumping, but it performs just as well or better than Carver C5 or Yao Legacy as a skateboard to do those skateboard type tricks, but it also performs way better than those as an actual surf skate. Like it performs a lot like a regular surf skate like my Grasp or CX. Things that I notice are Like the deck is shorter in length and shorter in wheelbase than my regular surf skates. Like this is my grasp, and this is what I use for my Carver CX. But I mean, so it's obviously a smaller deck, so that makes it lighter. It also has hollowed out Kemppines, so I guess they save some weight there. And with the 65mm wheels compared to the 70s that I usually ride, I mean, that'll make it lighter, but I feel like the deck's probably gotta be a bit lighter as well. But yeah, I mean, I think this is fantastic. A lot of my friends who are like advanced skateboarders, I would totally recommend this to them because I think that they would be able to pop ollies, do kickflips, things like that, but I think that they'd also be totally blown away at how much forward momentum this carries when pumping and how carvable this is. I just can't overstate how well this functions as a skateboard. Like that actually really excites me. For me personally, simply because I'm 6'4" and I have a size 13 shoe. So for me personally, like the tail feels just slightly narrower than I like, but I mean, if you're someone who has a smaller than size 13 foot shoe, which you probably are, if you're rocking like 11s or so, 12s even, like this tail is gonna feel fine. Like I'll just show you real quick, like, you know, this is my standard Carver CX tail, and so you can see that on my regular Carver CX tail, like that's a tail that I really like personally. But again, it's because I have a size 13 shoe and it just fits it really well. So this tail, for me, feels slightly small, but I mean, but it still works fantastic, and I would totally ride this myself because of this really cool, like, ability for it to be, you know, again, both a skateboard and a surf skater.
I love it. It's a fun board. It's because it's shorter and snappier. I feel like the concavities really lock my feet in, and the nose and the tail really lock my feet in. So it's like a fun trick board and cruiser board and all the things. I like it. It's very flowy. It's like short, so it's real snappy in here. I love it.